The man who saved the world. If you are watching this video right now, it is a miracle. You are breathing, your heart is beating, and the sun rose this morning, all because of one word spoken by one man in a metal box at the bottom of the ocean. This is Vasily Arkhipov. You probably don't know his name. You won't find his face on currency. You won't find statues of him in town squares. But on October 27, 1962, he held the fate of 3 billion people in his hands. It was the darkest day of the Cold War. Two superpowers, the USA and the Soviet Union, were staring each other down, fingers on the nuclear trigger. But while the world was watching John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, the real decision wasn't being made in the White House or the Kremlin. It was being made 300 meters underwater, inside a dying submarine where the temperature was 120 degrees. The crew was fainting from lack of oxygen, and the captain had just given the order, "Fire the nuclear torpedo." This is the story of the man who said no. To understand the nightmare, we have to go back to October 1st, 1962. 4 Soviet submarines slipped silently out of a secret base in the Arctic. Their mission: go to Cuba. Defend it from an American invasion. Among them is submarine B-59. From the start, the mission was a disaster. These submarines were built for the freezing Arctic, not the warm waters of the Caribbean. As they traveled south, the internal cooling systems failed. The temperature inside the sub began to rise and rise. By the time they reached the Sargasso Sea, it was a floating oven. While they were underwater, the world above them exploded. American spy planes discovered nuclear missiles in Cuba. President Kennedy ordered a naval quarantine, a blockade. The U.S. Navy surrounded Cuba with a wall of steel, 11 destroyers, and the massive aircraft carrier, the USS Randolph. They were hunting for Soviet subs. On October 27th, they found one. Submarine B-59 was hiding deep below. The Americans knew it was there. They didn't know it carried a nuclear weapon. They thought it was just a patrol boat. So, the U.S. Navy decided to signal it to surface. They began dropping signaling depth charges. Now, to the Americans, these were just knocks on the door. They were practice charges, small explosives meant to say, "We see you, come up." But to the terrifyingly exhausted crew inside B-59, 300 meters down, it sounded like the apocalypse. Let's step inside B-59. The conditions were hell on earth. The air conditioning has been broken for days. The temperature is over 113 degrees Fahrenheit. In the engine room, it's 140 degrees. The crew is rationing 1 glass of water a day. Carbon dioxide levels are so high that men are fainting at their posts. They have trench foot. Their skin is rotting from the humidity. Worst of all, they are deaf and blind. Because they are hiding deep underwater, they have had zero contact with Moscow for days. They can't receive news. They don't know if the crisis is being resolved or if World War III has already begun. Then, the explosions start. The submarine shakes violently. The lights flicker. Captain Valentin Savitsky is at the breaking point. He is exhausted. He is dehydrated. And now he believes the Americans are trying to kill them. He screams, "They are dropping depth charges on us. War has started up there. We're going to blast them now. We will die, but we will sink them all. We will not become the shame of the fleet." He orders the crew to arm the special weapon, the T-5 nuclear torpedo. It had a yield of 15 kilotons, roughly the same power as the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. If fired, it would vaporize the USS Randolph and the destroyers. The U.S. would instantly retaliate with nuclear force against Russia. Russia would fire back. The chain reaction would incinerate the globe. But there was one final safeguard. To launch a nuclear weapon, the captain couldn't just push a button. He needed the unanimous consent of the 3 senior officers on board. The captain, Valentin Savitsky; the political officer, Ivan Maslennikov; and the flotilla chief of staff, Vasily Arkhipov. Captain Savitsky shouts, "Fire!" The political officer, Maslennikov, looks at the captain and says, "Yes, I agree." 2 out of 3. The key is turning. They turn to the third man, Vasily Arkhipov. Arkhipov is 36 years old. He is a veteran. Just a year earlier, he had exposed himself to severe radiation to save a different submarine, K-19, from a reactor meltdown. He was calm. He was respected. Arkhipov looks at the panicked captain and says, "No." Savitsky is furious. He screams that they are being destroyed. But Arkhipov keeps his voice low. He argues. He says, "These are not attacks. They are signals. If they wanted to kill us, we would already be dead. They are telling us to surface. We will not start a war based on a guess." The argument drags on while the depth charges continue to bang against the hull. The fate of human civilization is being debated by 2 sweaty, exhausted men in a steel tube. Arkhipov doesn't back down. He refuses to authorize the launch. Without his consent, the weapon is useless. Finally, Captain Savitsky exhales. The rage leaves him. He realizes Arkhipov is right. He cancels the order to fire. B-59 blew its ballast tanks and rose to the surface. As the hatch opened, the fresh tropical air rushed in. They were immediately blinded by the searchlights of the U.S. destroyers. But there were no missiles flying. No mushroom clouds on the horizon. The Americans didn't attack. They simply escorted the Soviet sub away from Cuba. The crew returned to Russia. You might expect a hero's welcome. You would be wrong. The Soviet leadership was embarrassed. They had been forced to retreat. One admiral told the crew, "It would have been better if you had gone down with your ship." Vasily Arkhipov lived the rest of his life in relative obscurity. He retired as a vice admiral and settled in a small town near Moscow. He never bragged about what he did. He died in 1998 from kidney cancer, likely caused by the radiation he absorbed saving that first submarine, K-19. The world didn't even know this story until 2002, when the files were finally declassified. Thomas Blanton, the director of the U.S. National Security Archive, put it simply. The lesson from this is that a guy called Vasily Arkhipov saved the world. So, tonight, when you go to sleep, or when you hug your loved ones, take a second to thank the man who refused to press the button. Sometimes, the bravest thing a soldier can do is nothing at all.